This is my 1965 Levin Goliath guitar. These were made in a factory in Gothenburg, Sweden. What's interesting about these is they're compared to Martins. A lot of people think that they sound, as good or better than some Martin guitars of the same era, because supposedly Martin guitars were made in that same factory and sold to European market. And their collection of wood in the factory was really, really high grade, and Martin ended up buying that factory later on. This particular guitar has a really, really cool backstory. Years ago, I was in Amsterdam on an off day from a tour. I was walking around, just looking at whatever, and I find this really, really great old guitar shop. It was downstairs in a basement, next to one of the canals. And I come in and you could barely walk in there. There was just so much stuff everywhere. It was hard to walk through and see everything. But it was one of the coolest guitar stores I'd ever been in. And the reason it was so cool to me is because there were all of these old antique instruments, old amplifiers, like Italian amplifiers, Russian amplifiers. There was guitars that were made in Sweden like this one and other places. Just things that I would never, ever see back in the States. There were the original Parkheads, Selmer amplifiers. There was Burns guitars and amplifiers, things like that. Stuff that you never saw in the Midwest in the United States. So it was completely out of my reality, and it was a really super cool place. So anytime I would go to Amsterdam, had an off day on a tour, I would go look for that guitar shop and stop in. And the owner was super cool, very knowledgeable, and seemed to enjoy the fact that I was in Wonderland. So I went quite a few times over the years, and in one tour, I went looking for it and I couldn't find it. And I thought, have I just forgotten where this place is? And a few years go by and I never found it again. So I'm talking to my friend Sandra, who her and her husband Luciano booked my tours over there, and I'm telling her about this cool guitar shop. And she says, oh, that's Palm Guitars. That's my friend Soren. And I said, is it out of business or what? And she said, no, they moved to a different location outside of Amsterdam. And I said, well, can we go there? And she says, yeah, let's go visit. And so we go on over there, and he's got this even bigger place, and you still couldn't walk through it with all the amazing things in there. And Soren was just a really cool guy. And he starts telling me about all of this stuff. And he said that they moved out of the old place because everything caught on fire. And they lost a lot of instruments and stuff in the fire. And he's telling me about this particular guitar was on fire when he got there. And he put the fire out and brought it outside. And there's smoke coming off of it everywhere. And he ended up keeping a hold of it, and he'd been trying to sell it since then, but people didn't want to buy a guitar that had been in a fire. And I said, well, how much you want for that? And he says, I'll sell it for 300 euros. And I said, all right. So I bought it. I thought, I'm the kind of guy who wants to own an instrument that had lived through a fire and had been on fire at one time. And so I took it home. Before we left that day, we went upstairs and sat and had tea, me and Sandra and Soren. And we had tea while we listened to these Caruso 78s that he had an old Victrola there for sale. He had a huge selection of old 78s and stuff. Just a super cool place. And then Soren passed away, I think, within the next year after that. And the guitar shop is no more, I believe. I'd like to go back and find out that it actually still exists, but I don't believe it does anymore. But I have this guitar as a souvenir of one of the coolest guitar shops that I'd ever been in, and one of the cooler guitar shop owners that I'd ever met. And a little bit about these particular guitars. They're always compared to Martins, and you can kind of see why. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't want to make statements that I don't know to be fact, but I can repeat all these things that I've read online, as we do sometimes. But it's a big, boomy sounding guitar, and it has a weird bridge situation right here. There's these individual bridge saddles that kind of screw where you can change the height of the strings. I think they were getting tricky, a little too tricky. They're made out of plastic and they really deaden the sound a lot. It's not a good thing. So people change that out. And supposedly when you get a bone saddle in there or something, the whole thing just opens up. I've never done that. I kind of want to do that, but I haven't done that because I kind of want to keep it original, or for a guitar that's been on fire. You know, you can see places in the headstock. You can see all these waves in the headstock where the wood just kind of reacted to the fire, and you can see how heated up, and it kind of changed the shape of it. It's really strange there, but this is all bloated out where the plastic or whatever that's made out of, the celluloid, swelled out. So you can see there's a big hump here. And I believe he said he had to replace the pick guard because the pick guard was, just completely too damaged. I believe that's what he said. But beyond that, it's a really cool looking old guitar. It stays in tune. It's I think it sounds really cool. I have very old strings. The strings are about 5 years old on it. I like old dead strings on guitars. It's my personal, preference. I played one gig on this. I put a K&K Pure Western pickup in it, and I took it to, it was a really bad idea. I took it to like a festival type show in Austin where there were a lot of different people playing, and I would have to get up and play without a sound check. That's a very bad idea on my part, to bring a guitar I've never played live before and to get up and play without a sound check. It just fed back horribly, just a very bad experience. And I thought, all right, I'm just going to play this at home. So this has become my guitar that I sit on the porch and I play and I write songs with. I sit on the couch and I'll play and write songs with it. I've traveled, took it with me on a couple traveling vacation type things where I'm not going to play, but I'm going to sit and write songs or something like that. It's become that guitar for me, and I really enjoy it. And it's got some sentimental value. But I have a feeling a lot of you have some stories about Soren. You probably met him. Maybe you bought something from him. I'd like to hear that, or tell me some personal stories. But if you'd like to hear this guitar being played on my front porch, just click this video right here. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Much love to you.